Hello there. So I've been talking a bit about happiness, and today I want to talk about psychology and Buddhism. So before I came across Buddhism, I studied psychology. And when I first found it, I remember thinking that psychology was the answer to life, that if I could understand myself from that perspective, that I could make my life fairly comfortable and have positive states of mind. I realised towards the end of that course that actually there was something missing, and I decided to go use my psychology to study as a counselling psychologist. So I did 3 years MSc in London at Goldsmiths University. And when I started doing that course, which was a 3-year course, I thought, now I've got the answer, this is the answer to life, I'm going to understand myself more deeply. Well, you can guess it. So that too wasn't enough, actually, although I didn't realise it at the time. And I came across Buddhism quite by chance. I wasn't looking for anything. I certainly wasn't looking for any kind of religion. But I met somebody who I had a relationship with who was a mitra. And he taught me to meditate. And when I meditated, I realised that actually, for various reasons, I'd been meditating all my life, certainly when I was very little. But anyway, that's for another time. But I heard a public talk in Brighton. It was the Brighton Festival, and I heard a talk by Vajraguptā. And at that point, I realised, I am a Buddhist. That's what I am. So finding Buddhism was like the fulfillment of finding what really works. It kind of put together the whole thing, the study of psychology, the counselling training I'd done, and here I was at Buddhism. So what part does psychology play? What part did it play in in me looking to develop my awareness? Well, it certainly opened my eyes in a lot of respects. But I think what it did is suggest very mundane ways that I could help myself, and they were very useful. Why do I think psychology isn't enough? That's probably the question to ask. Why isn't psychology enough? And I think it's because I realised, yes, I had a pretty unusual childhood, and I had all my various conditioning that had led to who I was, like we all have. And I came to see that actually, however much I delved into my past, however much I looked at reasons for how I was as I am, it was never enough. It didn't really address the current problems. It wasn't very current. And, one can go back endlessly looking at the past, and you're never going to understand everything. Why did this happen? Or it can lead to blame, or it can lead to, a sort of self-indulgent, never-ending trying to find reasons. And although that's useful to a point, and it is useful, I'm a psychologist, I'm a counsellor, and I'm very much in favour of people doing that work. But it isn't enough. It doesn't have the answer to life. So in what way does the Buddha have the answer to life? The Buddha's teachings? Well, I think it comes down to actually seeing the reality of the implications of having a body and having a human life. And what Buddhism offers is an answer to the potential of what you can do with that life. And he said that we can all become Buddhas. Now, obviously, it takes a long time to understand what that means in terms of ourselves, because we know we're not a Buddha at the moment. We definitely know that. We know that we suffer from unpleasant states of mind. But I think what Buddhism does is actually help us to understand that we can't escape those states of mind altogether, or at least we will understand those states of mind in a different way if we follow the Buddha's teaching. So we're all born with the genes that we've got and our temperament. So it might be that we have a tendency to be depressed, for example, or anxious. Combined with our genes and our conditioning, we might see that that is what we're dealing with. And it's a waste of time to just think that we can knock those out of the way, that there's some quick fix that is just going to change all that, because maybe it isn't. I mean, yes, maybe you'll find some useful tools. Maybe cognitive therapy or some other therapy will definitely help us manage our life. But it can't be the whole answer. And that's because we have got a human body, and that body is impermanent, and that body suffers. And we will get old if we're lucky enough, and we will get ill at times, and we can't control those things. And we can change the state of our minds by, well, I'll go into that in a minute. What we can't change is what's outside of ourselves. We can't change other people to be what we want them to be, and we can't change circumstances from happening. We can influence them, of course we can. We put effort into life to make our lives comfortable, and we're very fortunate in this country, in the UK, that we can do that to, well, a magnificent extent. If we work hard and if we set our mind on something. But we need to find out what's the most important thing in life. And, well, I would say that it's a sense of freedom from negative states of mind. So therefore, I need to understand, why do I experience negative states of mind? And the Buddha pointed out that we are constantly craving. And aversion is the other side of craving. We either want things to be a certain way, or we want things not to be how they are. So craving and hatred, and of course delusion. We just see the world how we want to see it. And it's so deeply ingrained in us that we don't realise that everybody else has a different perspective that's just as relevant as our own. And so we think that the world is how we see it. And that is a big mistake. It's what is called spiritual ignorance. So what can we do? What can we do? Well, we can certainly do some psychological work and, dig into how we've arrived as we are today, and there were factors to do with our family, our education, our culture, and so on. All those things have influenced us, and we need to understand how we've arrived in the states of mind that we've got now. But ultimately, one of the things is we have to accept some things that can't be changed. We have to accept that. So in my own life, the most recent example I've got of that is that, I was born disabled with a significant disability. And I was probably at my peak of ability, of physical movement and everything when I was in my 20s and 30s. I'm pretty good in my 40s. And then there were some changes. And those changes have been quite substantial lately. Actually, I didn't really expect to be still walking by the time I was 60. And, so things have actually turned out better than I thought. So anyway, last year we moved house. Me and Bodhivajra moved from being out in the country, which was getting more difficult. We had a great big garden, to being closer to Norwich. We're on the edge of town. And I think what I imagined was that things were getting difficult where I was out at Horsted. And I thought things will be easier. And I can make myself more independent again, things, I can make things around me to work so that I can, well, maybe be like I was 10 years ago. And I quickly found out that that wasn't the case. That wasn't going to happen. And, well, I could have been really upset about that. But I quickly realised, I've been practicing for a long time, and I could see that actually, okay, this isn't easy, but actually it's got to be accepted. I'm not going to have a different body. Things are going to be difficult. I can make some physical changes here, but I can't turn back the clock, and I'm losing my capacity to look after myself. And I had to accept that. And, that's okay in a way. In some ways, it makes me more fitted for practice. I can't run about. I can't distract myself with long walks. And, there's lots of things I can't do. I can't do probably a huge number of things that I would like to do. So what can I do? Well, I can meditate. I can study the Dharma. I can paint. I can play with my parrot. There's loads I can do, I can read, write. So, focus on what we can do, on where our life is, and seeing the positive, seeing the absolute benefits that we've got. It's like, maybe you will always have anxiety. Maybe you'll always have a tendency to depression. Maybe you take drugs for that. Maybe you decide not to. But whatever you do, there's got to be a level of acceptance if we're going to be content and calm and happy and, in touch with reality. You can't fight reality. And there's a great relief in that, as I often say. There's a sense of letting go, of releasing the breath and just being with what is. So it's not about being passive, about doing nothing about things, but we do what we can. And then it's like relaxing into really looking what the Buddha said and connecting that to our potential. If you remember the four noble truths, yes, there is suffering. There is a cause to suffering, but the Buddha also said there's a ceasing to suffering, and he gave us a path that led to that. So always remembering that. So that's it for today. Bye for now.